What can you say to guide or help young people under pressure to use inappropriate names and pronouns in education or in the workplace?
So this is a tough one, because you're dealing with an underlying principle of how far can you go along with something in your conscience and based on your convictions in order to, for example, do a job. So if you're dealing with an obvious example, a job where they're telling you you need to deny the gospel, then you as a Christian, you cannot do that and you need to leave your job. So we get that as an extreme example. On the other end, it could be something that maybe isn't the most comfortable in terms of with your conscience, but you know that this is still an environment which you potentially could work. So, for example, you could be working in a supermarket, and you maybe have been aware that some of the ethical practices of some of the food that's come in hasn't been in line with what you believe is agreeable, but in your conscience you believe you can still work within that workplace. So it's important to just kind of have in your mind, first of all, where in your conscience and based on your convictions you can and cannot do something. Now, one principle that I would state very clearly, if there is a requirement that you need to do something or say something that goes against truth, then you should not, you must not do it. So if you're in a workplace or in an environment, maybe even a school, and the people in positions of authority are saying you must acknowledge and say this person is of this preferred pronoun or whatever it is, then you should challenge that and say, I cannot in my conviction as a biblical Bible-believing Christian and in my conscience, one who seeks to uphold truth, uphold which is a lie. So it's not that you say straight away, well, I quit, I'm done, but you do need to challenge it. You cannot go along with that. Now, as soon as we get into that bracket, we think, okay, well, now I am being the troublemaker in my workplace or this environment. But the reality is that this trouble is being brought to your door. This change is being introduced, which is moving you further and further away from the truth that you uphold. And so in this sort of bracket where it involves effectively lying, then you do need to take a stand and be clear. Now, I'm conscious the fact that you may then be weighing up, well, this could be my job on the line. Like, I'm working for the NHS, and if I don't acknowledge this man who's needing some scan that is only for a woman, then I may lose my job. And yes, that's sadly the reality of where we are. Now, one thing that we can be comforted by in a country like the UK is that if you lose your job for something like this, then this will get more public attention, and it needs to. So even if it meant that you are somebody who becomes a kind of half-seeming martyr for the cause, well, it could be a way of actually pushing back and challenging the ongoing wicked narrative that if everyone just went along with it, it's going to get more and more and more insane, to use the word in the literal case here. When it comes to on a relational level, let's say, for example, you're dealing with a friend or a family member and they're saying, well, I now identify as a woman, so you need to call me Sally. So you can say, both respectfully and lovingly, well, I can't do that. I love you as my sister, or you're my friend, and I'm not going to be disowning you, but you understand that within my worldview, and you explain. And then there's an opportunity to proclaim the gospel. So this is the kind of confrontational nature of what we're dealing with here. And I understand it's not an easy thing to do, but we do need to be ready to resolve that. You know, we are going to challenge on this because it is a matter of upholding truth, and it's an opportunity to point people to Christ. Yeah.